All right, so today we're going to start with the fairly new payment profile, and then we're going to start or move into some of the newer functionality related to costing changes over the last few weeks, last couple updates. So the purpose of the new payment profile is to allow you to set basically payment profile details. For instance, what's the standard profit percent? What are the concessions that you offer to some of your clients? So it allows you to establish kind of standard agreements that you have with clients that you may do repeated business with. The payment profile is not going to apply to every company. One-off companies or clients that you do business with probably won't have much of a payment profile, but for those companies you do a lot of business with, it can certainly come in handy. So I've shared my screen. You should see it up on your end there. So I'm going to start by jumping into a client company record within Viper. Now, those of you that use the CRM, this is not something that you're going to do on the CRM first. So the payment profile fields are unique to the Viper side and should be set up just on the Viper side. So you can look up companies, as you know, through the Clients tab. In this case, I'm just going to pull up Sony Entertainment here, which is our fake company, and I can show you some payment profile details. So on the Details tab for any client company here, again, in the Clients tab, you're going to now see this payment profile area here, and you can see I already have several details entered, but if you wanted to edit any of these or add to it, you can just click the little green pencil there, and this is where you would edit those changes. So you can see we've got a standard profit percent field, rebate notes. They get 5% off if they spend over $1 million with you over the course of a year. It looks like we don't mark up any gift items. That's part of our concessions agreement. And then you can see other details. Do they have a custom contract? Do they prefer to pay with a credit card? And if so, do you waive the credit card fee? So that's going to be an important piece of information when you're building your costing. You'll want to potentially account for that 2, 3, 4% credit card fee that might apply to payments made by the client. All right, so those are the payment profile fields that you can populate. Again, that's through the Clients tab. Open up the client company profile, and then you'll see the payment details right here. Now, this information will show when you go and build a program for this client. And so let's take a peek at how that is incorporated into the program building process. So here I am, I'm back on my dashboard. I'm just going to create a new program here so we have something to use. I'm going to call it the 2018 Sony sales meeting. All right. Oops, that's not what I want. I want to put in my company name here. So we're going to put in Sony Entertainment as my client company. That's the company we were just looking at. I'm going to use my basic program template here just to keep things moving. And then, of course, this is where I'm going to enter my my program name on step 2 here. So 2018 Sony sales meeting. Any program code, I'm just going to type in a random one here. I'm going to leave my primary contact alone. We did say it was for 2018. Let's say it's April 14th through the 18th. The rest of the details here you'll recognize. Nothing really has changed there. Group profile, group size, let's say it's 50 to 60 people. It's going to Park City. Now this is where you'll start to see some new information. So right here, in the profit percent area, you can see this new field, client standard profit percent, is 26. So that pulled in from the payment profile. If it's left empty, this field won't show, but this will now indicate that you need to do, or you typically do a 26% markup with this client. So I'm going to put that in there. The rest of the fields here, estimated value is nothing new. Put that in and we'll get our calculated markup for this program. And then the rest of these fields, client rebate notes, you can see that Viper pulls in any notes that may have been entered, 5% over 1 million. That's that same note we saw earlier. So if you needed to supplement that or make anything specific to this program with rebates, you'd put them in there. You'd also enter your program rebate here if it applies as well. Let's say that they have gone over that $1 million threshold. That is something you'll need to manually check. So let's just say we're putting in a 5%. 5% rebate here. If we wanted to track it, you'd enter it into that field there. Okay. Commission notes, if there's any commission related to this client that needs to be paid out, you would enter that there. And lastly, concessions, you can see we've got no markup on gifts, and I could enter additional concessions there if I wanted to that apply to this specific program. All right. So I'm just going to hit submit to finalize my changes there. Okay. So again, the payment profile starts with the client record. As you build programs, Viper will basically present that information to you as it's relevant, and then you can supplement it with additional details that might be program specific as needed. So here's the payment profile box here, and you can see what we've entered. The standard profit percent is 26. So these are just kind of guidelines for those that are building the proposal or costing. These might guide what you're doing there. All right, so this can be edited if you need to. You can see those boxes or fields that we just saw can be edited here if needed to make any updates to those payment profile details. All right, now switching gears here, we're going to jump into the costing. As I mentioned, that's the other piece we'll be covering today. So when we go to the costing tab, just wanted to show you that some of those notes we entered, you can see there's a rebate rate of 5%. The credit card fee is waived, and that would mean you would need to potentially accommodate for those credit card fees that you might incur. That's obviously money that you would potentially be losing. So maybe you build in another profit percent or two throughout the program to make up that difference from allowing the client to pay with credit card and to waive the fee. All right, so those notes in red just appear there automatically based on what you've put into the payment profile. All right, now I'm going to add a few things to our costing here so we have some information to play with. Let's say under arrivals, I'm going to add from the content library, and we're just going to drop in a fairly standard, let's see, where are we here? Transportation, airport arrivals, and we'll drop in our airport arrivals package, fairly standard. And under optional activities, let's just drop in a couple things here. I'm going to put in, let's see here, just to keep things familiar, we were looking at the ski package last week. So I'm going to use the ski package and the paragliding, and the paragliding product as well. Okay, so we'll drop in a couple items to optional activities. We've got paragliding and our ski package, and we've got our airport arrivals. So to touch on a few newish things here in the costing, let's start at the top. So first of all, this little note here can easily be overlooked, but it's an important aspect to how you work in the costing. So as you probably know, when you're working in what we call the sales costing, which is the standard mode that the program starts in, it's in sales mode. As you update your costs, Viper will update your price based on your markup. So here, for instance, if I'm working, let's see, what's this item here? Bottled water. That's not a great one, but let's take the motor coach here. So if the motor coach price goes up, let's say you've contacted the vendor and they are actually going to be charging you $200 per, per hour here. We can increase that to 200, and it's going to lock my markup here, and it's going to increase my price. Okay, so because you want to typically maintain the same margins within your costing when you're in that sales mode, that's why Viper updates your price. When you put this program into operations mode, which is typically after you've contracted with the client, any changes to the cost will not change the price. They'll basically your price is locked unless you change it directly. So changes to the cost when in operations mode will recalculate your markup and leave your price alone. Okay, so that's an important detail to distinguish between sales mode and operations mode. And again, we've added this note here recently to kind of indicate what will change when you change the cost. Going down one more row here, there's a couple new commands to these bulk commands. So you can change the profit percent, commission rate, management fee in bulk now. So if you wanted to, for instance, set everything to 26% across the board for this program, because that's what the client, in that client profile, we said it was 26%. You can now go to profit percent, put 26 in here, hit OK, and that's going to update every single line item now to have a 26% markup. So obviously a big time saver. If you wanted to change the profit for everything in the costing, you no longer have to go through one by one. And now you can see everything is right around 26%. It might be off by a decimal or two, depending on what the actual cost and price calculate to, but you can see I've got a markup across the board now of 26. You could do the same thing for the commission rate and your management fee as well if you wanted to change those in bulk. The management fee is fairly new, so you'll see here in the subtotals area you can enter management fees. The management fee, well, basically, let's say you want to put a 5% management fee on your transportation, okay? And let's say there are actually, what did we say, like 60 people going on this particular, attending this particular program. So we've got 60 people with water, 2 motor coaches, arrival signs. We certainly don't need 60. Let's say we have 5 of those. And so that gets us to $35.71. With a 5% management fee comes out to $37.49.96, as you can see right here. So as the event totals change, the management fee will automatically recalculate because it is based on it's a percentage of this event total. All right, so that's the management fee. It is client facing. We'll see the client site in just a moment, so you'll be able to see what that looks like. If you wanted to do like pass-through pricing, you could set your markup to 0 across the board and just use management fees. So it depends on how you want to price it to the client, and it also depends on maybe the client's preferences and any agreements you may have with them. All right, now under management fee settings, this is where you can add a tax rate to your management fee depending on your state or country. There may be a tax that needs to be applied to that management fee. So this can be done here. And then do you want that tax, or excuse me, do you want your management fee based on the total price with commission and tax, just with commission, or without commission and tax? So you can configure those here on a per costing basis. And you can also configure those as defaults in the admin site for each office. All right, so again, that's management fee settings. Now, moving down into event-specific actions here, you'll notice that we now have a check all here at the event header, so it's quick and easy to check every line item within an event. And then you can access your actions here by clicking the event menu. And you'll notice these options here: change profit percent, change commission rate. So you can bulk update these line items per event if you don't want to do it for every line item in the costing. You'll see those here now. Of course, if you want to delete, that's here still. The hide and unhide have been in Viper for quite some time, so those are not new, but you can still hide and unhide line items from the client. Fairly new here are the exclude and include options. So you'll use exclude if you want the client to potentially see the line item and display the price to them, but you want it excluded from the totals. This is a good way to do that. So whether you're proposing multiple options and you don't want your total to be totally bloated because you have 3 or 4 options in there and they're ultimately going to pick one, that's a good time to use that exclude option. All right. Just a new indicator here. You'll notice there's a little orange line under this line item here, the line item menu, and that just indicates that this item has internal notes entered. So if you go to internal notes here, you'll see that there are indeed internal notes entered for this 50-passenger motor coach. So it's subtle, but that new orange indicator there means that you have notes entered for that line item that either pulled in from the content library or you added directly here within the costing. All right, so we've covered some of those bulk actions. Let's go down to optional activities. I'm really quickly going to put in my some basic numbers here for my paragliding and ski package. The paragliding here, let's say this is going to be what we just talked about there, kind of a secondary option. So this is where I could check this and choose exclude from totals. Keep your eye on the bottom right of your screen where the total price is currently $33,000. So if I exclude that from totals, it now drops down to $22,000 because this $10,961 has now been excluded from my total. Again, the client can see this line item in the costing, but they will not, and they will see the price, but of course it's been excluded from the total so it doesn't inflate your total too much. Now under the ski package, this is still included. We've got our helmet rentals, the ski goggles, lift ticket options. In this case, let's say we're doing 40 adults and 20 kids, so we can easily override those accordingly. And then under mixed vehicles here, let's say we have a large group, and so we're going to use that the 250 passenger motor coaches to get everyone there. One of the new pieces here that I wanted to touch on are the product details and package details pop-up. So if you click the line item menu, you'll see this product details pop up. And so the 50-passenger motor coach is pretty close to fitting the capacity of all 60 people. Let's say, because there's a bunch of children coming and they're small, and the bus company is okay with it and the client company is okay with it, you can set your capacity, instead of 50 maybe for the motor coach, maybe you override it to 60 just in this one case. Okay, so by clicking the menu item and then selecting product details, you can edit options like that. So we're going to change our capacity to 60 here. You'll also notice you can change your step and minimum in this pop-up. So you would change your unit step if you wanted to. Typically, if you're selling products hourly, you might have a default unit step of 1, which means you cannot sell that product in increments of an hour. You have to sell it for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours and so forth. However, if you wanted to be able to sell that product in, say, half increments or even 15 minutes for hours, you could set that to 0.25 or 0.5 if you wanted to be able to sell, for instance, staff rates at 2.5 hours. You would put 0.5 in there, meaning you can sell half hours. Okay, so I'm going to leave this at 1. And then your unit minimum is again a default that pulls in from this product in the content library. But if you need to override that for whatever reason, you can do that here in the product details pop-up. You'll also notice that we have links out to the 50-passenger motor coach here. So this is the original product in the content library. If I click on that, it's going to open up my motor coach in the content library. So a very quick and easy way to access the original product. And then if there were a linked article, it would be listed here. You can see in this case, there is no linked article. All right, so I'm going to hit save. And now you can see, since I've increased my capacity of the motor coach to 60, that means everyone fits on one bus, and Viper recalculates that to 1. So the product details pop up, really handy for accessing some basic details about the product, like the capacity or unit step. And it's also really handy for quickly accessing the original product in the content library or the linked article if you wanted to jump to it. For instance, with the ski package, if I want to access my package details here, there's fewer options for a package detail. Really just, it'll show you the original package in the content library, just like with the product. But this does have a linked article. So if I click on this, it's going to take me to the linked article in the content library. And this, of course, is my ski package description, which I could edit, manipulate, do whatever I want with. So that link just makes it a little easier to jump back and forth between what you've got set up for pricing and the costing and what you've got set up as a description within the costing here. All right, so we've hit on the package details, the product details, and the internal notes option here. We'll cover the providers pop-up probably in the next couple weeks on one of our webinars. That's something that's been here for a while, but definitely make sure you're using the providers pop-up there. All right, so I wanted to wrap with discussing this new option for line item packages, and then I'll give you a quick glance at the client website, and we'll be done for today. So this new eye icon here, it only shows for line item packages. So you'll notice if this if this package is in bundled view, you can see that I don't have any client view options because bundled packages, are presented the way they always have been. But we've added these new view options for line item packages. What it essentially allows you to do is you can present, or you can price out the package in line item view, but present it to the client in a bundled fashion if you want to. All right, so by clicking the I here, I can choose if I want the client to see the product line items only, which are, the helmet rental, the ski boot. They would see the pricing for those. If I want them to just see the package line item only, that means it's basically going to be a bundled package. I could show them that, or I can show them both if I want to. Okay, so you'll notice, let's actually do this. I'm going to open up the client costing in a new tab. So I'm going to go to my client website tab here, and we're going to preview this proposal. Just need to publish the costing real quick here. Publish our costing. All right, so we're going to do preview proposal. All right, well, that's pulling up. I'm going to go back to my costing. I can close this tab. Okay, so we'll click into our proposal. Again, we're previewing it exactly as the client would see it. Now, if I go to the costing tab here, again, I just want to show you as we make these changes what the client is going to see based on what you choose internally. So we've got our optional activities here, which is where we'll be working. You can see the paragliding line item is crossed out, or excuse me, highlighted in red, meaning it's been excluded. And the client will see that at the top, any line items highlighted in red are excluded. So they can see the total price for it, but they know it's been excluded and it indeed has not been added to this total here of 14,000. Okay, so this is your standard line item view. You can see that the client can see all of the prices for each line item, and they do not see the package total. All right, so here if I change my view, so let's try, so product line items only is what we're currently seeing. So if I switch that to package line item only, you'll notice that Viper now grays out all of the prices for my line items, meaning they're hidden from the client. Anything in gray indicates the client cannot see those. And then you'll see that my package totals go dark black, meaning the client can now see those. All right, so they're going to see this top line item for the package. Now, if I refresh, you can see the line item pricing goes away, and the client just sees the unit price and total price for the ski package. It essentially looks identical to the client as a bundled package would, but the advantage is that you're able to price it in a line item view, manipulate markup, cost, price separately for each line item, but the client just gets the single bundled rate. Okay, and then finally, our third option here is show package and product line items. So if I select that view, you can see that these go back to white, meaning they are not hidden from the client, those line items, and this is what they would see now. So they can see, the client can see the line item breakdown for each, and they can see the package total kind of in light gray here, but it comes out to $235 per person and a total of $14,124. Okay, so those new views allow you to be more flexible with your line item packages and price them to the client however you'd like the client to see them. Okay, so feel free to play around with that a bit. Again, it's only for line item packages, and you'll see that eye icon next to the line item package footer. Okay, so I believe we've covered everything I wanted to get through today. We talked about the payment profile, how that is then used potentially in your costing, the bulk update, actions that are now available in the costing, the management fee, the view options for line item packages, hiding and excluding line items, and then those package and product details pop-ups, which give you more information on a given line item. All right, so unless there's any questions that get typed into the chat window in the next few seconds, we can call today's webinar a wrap. I will be posting this to our YouTube channel a bit later today, and we'll also be distributing a link to vote on upcoming topics, as I mentioned last week. So we're looking for feedback on what topics you'd like to see in future webinars, and that'll all probably be handled through our help desk, Zendesk. So just be on the lookout for a follow-up email here in the next couple days, and looking forward to seeing everyone on next week's webinar. And oh, I do see a question. So question, how do those differ from the hide line item pricing at the top? So good question. There's this checkbox at the top of the costing. This was originally introduced for companies that do more FIT-based travel. The reason being that they often like to present their costings and budgets to clients without any line item pricing. They typically either see just the grand total for the costing, or they will see totals for each event. So if I hide my line item pricing here, all I have to do is check that box. That will basically hide all unit prices for packages, products, line items from my client. So if I refresh my client view here, to refresh, you can see the pricing for all of my line items goes away, including packages, right? So you asked what was the difference. You're still, when you're changing your views for line item packages, the client is still going to see either the unit pricing for the package header or the line items. But in this view, you can see they don't see any pricing within each event, and they're just going to get the totals for each. Again, this is usually used for FIT travel because you're presenting tours with more fixed rates, and you don't want the client to see the price breakdown of what's going into each one of those events and so forth. All right. Another question here, just when did you say these updates will be going out? So we've been in the process of updating sites over the past week and a half or so. Because it's a large update and we have a lot of sites to update, it's taken a little longer than we hoped, and a little longer than it typically takes for an update. So the updates should be rolling out to your site by Monday at the latest. So we're still doing it. We'll be doing some tonight, tomorrow night, through the weekend. So certainly by Monday you should have these new features, and you'll see a notification at the top of your Viper site. Viper has been updated. Click here to learn more when your site has been updated. All right, so it doesn't look like we have any more questions. Again, thank you for those of you that joined. We'll have it up on our YouTube channel here shortly, and we'll talk to everyone next week.